Very good morning, dear students. Welcome to the today's session. And this session, we are going to continue the discussion of LPG chapter. And in that chapter, in the previous class, we have already started discussion of the areas of which the liberalization process has adapted. In that, mainly we have discussed the deregulation of industrial sector and the financial sector reforms, and remaining the areas where we adapted the liberalization will be going to continue in this session. Okay, the main areas of liberalization. In that, the first point, the first area is industrial sector. That will be called as deregulation of industrial sector and financial sector reforms. And third area in which we have adapted liberalization procedures means that is tax reforms. And this tax reforms we also call it as a physical sector reforms, because physical policy means first we need to know the meaning of physical policy before understanding the tax reforms. Here, physical policy means the policy which is related to the government's taxation as well as government expenditure patterns is nothing but physical policy. Physical policy is relating to the government taxation and expenditure patterns. It means what is the tax rates, on which are the goods, which are the type of income the government is going to be laying the taxes, as well as on which sectors and how much the government is going to be spending money. This all related documentaries will be called as a physical policy. That's what physical policy means, related to government's taxation and government's taxation and expenditure. It is also called as public expenditure or government's expenditure policy or pattern. Physical policy is a policy related to the government's taxation and expenditure. Okay, this is what physical policy. Here, the reforms we are adapted in the taxation. The reforms which we are adapted in the taxation is called as a tax reforms. Here, we all compared to other countries' tax formation. In India, we have high rate of taxation compared to all other world countries. And one thing you should keep in your mind, the taxes income are the main income of our government to make different kind of expenditure. Whatever the expenditure the government incurs, in which way they is going to collect the income is through levying the taxes on different types. Okay, that is called it as a taxation. But in India, the tax rates was very high earlier. But in order to make sure to reduce the tax rates as well as to make tax payments purely transparent, this means who are going to be pay the taxes, they should know the time to pay and where it should be paid and how much we need to pay. Likewise, there should be a clear-cut information to our taxpayers, and when there is a high rate of taxes, the people used to and all some other problems. To reduce all these problems and make sure the tax, to improve the tax income, some of the measures or some of the reforms we have adapted in the 1991. The reforms are nothing but tax reforms. First of all, we need to know what you mean by tax. First, we need to know what you mean by tax. Here, tax is nothing but it is a compulsory payment. It's a compulsory payment made by the people. Who will pay the taxes? People. To whom? To the government. And here there is no choice. We will pay and we won't pay like that. We will not be having a choices. Okay, it is a compulsory payment which it is made by the people to the government and without any direct expectations. Okay, of course, after collection of taxes, the government will spend on the public only, but directly not who paid for it only it will be spent. Okay, it will be created some social infrastructure and economic infrastructure like that. Maybe that will be get to us or it will won't be. But without any direct expectation, compulsory payment made by the people to the government is nothing but taxes. Your tax refers to compulsory payment made by the people to the government without any direct expectations. This is what called tax. Okay, taxation or tax refers to compulsory payment made by the people to the government without any direct expectations. And in the taxation, there are two types. The overall taxes will be classified into two types. The taxes are two types. In the first one, direct tax, and second one, indirect tax. The taxes are two types. One is direct tax and another one is indirect tax. Here, first we will know what do you mean by direct tax. 1 month or 2 months they will ask what do you mean by direct tax. Give the examples for the direct tax. Okay, policy of a government. Like that they will ask here. Direct tax means the taxes which will be levied on individual person's income and profit of the institutions. In the direct tax is a tax which will be levied on individual's income and profit of institutions. That will be called as a direct tax. Okay. Here under the direct tax there are so many examples which will become under the direct tax means income tax, corporation tax and so on. Okay. And next, indirect tax means the taxes which will be levied on goods and services, or in simply we can call as the taxes which will be levied on commodities, that can be called as direct taxes. Under the direct tax there will be a sales tax, VAT, custom duties, export duties and all. Okay, and simply we can now we have a broad classification, that is GST, goods and service tax, and VAT likewise. Okay, value added tax, etc. This here first we know the meaning of what do you mean by direct tax. We will ask for 1 month or 2 months. Take a meaning of direct tax. Direct tax. Here direct tax is a tax individual, or else take out direct tax refers to taxes on individual income and profit of business enterprises is called as a direct tax. Direct tax means it's the taxes which levy on individual income and profit of the business enterprises is called as a direct tax. And keep in your mind, always direct taxes cannot be shifted to others, which whom the tax will be levied. That person or that institution itself need to pay the tax. We cannot able to shift the tax burden to others. Okay, that's why it is called as a direct tax. If for example I am earning more than 5 lakhs rupees of money, then I need to pay 5% or 10% of income tax to the government, which on me it's there is I need to pay. I can't able to transfer my tax burden to others. Okay, then your examples for direct tax is income tax and corporate tax. These are the two examples for direct taxes. Next, indirect tax. Indirect tax. Your indirect tax means the tax which will be levied on goods and services or commodities is called as a indirect tax, and this tax burden easily can shift to others. It means if the government levy their sales tax or VAT on producer, he can shift to a wholesaler, and wholesaler will be shift the tax burden including the tax set in the price of good can to the retailer, and retailer can shift to a customers or consumers finally. Here the indirect taxes can easily shift to others, but direct taxes cannot be able to shift to others. They only pay. And take a meaning of indirect taxes: the taxes on goods and services. Indirect tax refers to taxes on goods and services or commodities. We can goods and services means commodities. These are the indirect tax meaning. Next, examples for indirect tax is GST. You know the full form of GST, right? Let's take down goods and now the India adapted single tax system since 2018, that is GST, goods and service tax, in short form GST, and one more VAT and the value added tax, VAT and custom duties. Here custom duties means the tax which will be levied on import and export of goods and services, and excise duties. Excise duties means the taxes which will be levied on entertainable goods and services or liquors, means the drinks, alcoholic products. Okay, all alcoholic products are the entertainable goods and services. Taxes will be called as a excise duties. Got it? These are the examples for indirect tax. your mind? Direct tax means the taxes on individual income and profit of the business enterprises, and indirect tax means the tax on goods and services or else commodities. And examples is GST are goods and service tax, VAT, custom duties and excise duties. And this in India earlier before 1991, the tax rate is very high compared to all other countries, and due to that reason, so many people used to escape from the tax paying. That's why the revenue of a government, our income source of government became so less. To avoid the particular condition, we adapted some reforms in the tax formation. In that is main one, the rate of tax. It means the percentage of taxation gradually reduced, okay, step by step, and it's how to pay the tax issue. It means tax, and when to pay it and where to pay it. Every details is given to the public, and who pay the tax, for them giving the liberty or giving some extra beneficial issues or sanctions or licensing as soon as giving the license, and for the expansion of their business and all, giving some priority to the people or the institution who will pay regular taxation, like that. Some of the reforms we have adapted in the taxation. How in the sense? By reducing rate of tax gradually. Gradually means we are not reduced at a time from 20% to 5%, from 20% to 15%, and 15 to 10%, and then went to 5%. Likewise, gradually the rate of taxes on all types of taxes was reduced. Okay, gradually. And also the tax payment made purely transparent. It means that how to pay the tax, how to pay, when to pay, where to pay, and how much to pay. This all the details are given to the public, and forming some tax institutions to take care of the taxation responsibilities. When we adapted this, all the tax reforms, automatically boosts the government income source, because in India the main source of income to a government is a revenue source of government is taxes. So that making the tax reforms boosts the revenue source of income, and it helps to balance the government revenue or income and with the expenditure. So this are the main reform or liberalization which we adapted under the new economic policy. Then next we will move to one more reform, in which area we have adapted or in which area we have liberalized after the tax reforms. Okay. Next, foreign exchange reform. section is foreign exchange reforms. Okay, here before going to discussing of foreign exchange reform, first we need to know in the background of economics we have discussed that. In background of economic reforms, we have discussed that there was a deficit BOP in 1980 to 1990 era. Okay, deficit BOP means there was less exports and high rate of imports. Because of less exports and high rate of imports, we need to pay more payments to the foreigners, and we used to receive less payments from the foreigners. And because of this reason, the foreign exchange reserves have been declined than the margin rate which we needed. Then to overcome that particular problem, we adapted foreign exchange reforms. As soon as adapting the foreign exchange reforms, first step we have taken, that is devaluation of rupee. Devaluation of rupee. You should think that. What do you mean by devaluation? Very simple. Devaluation means decreasing or reducing. Okay, devaluation means reducing the rupee or the value of rupee against foreign currencies. We can think that how can we reducing the value of rupee? We can bring the balance between exports and imports. There is a magic where will be used to play in order to bring the balance between exports and imports through devaluation. How? In the sense, when we reduce the value of rupee in front of foreign currency, what will happen? The exports goods price, our country exports goods price will reduce, and at the same time the import goods price will be increased. When exports price reduces, then the demand for our country's exports will be increased. Then the rate of exports will be goes on high. When the rate of imports will be increased due to devaluation, what happens? The demand for imported goods in our country will be reduced. When import goods demand will be reduced, then imports will also be reduced. When exports rate will be exports rate will be reduced, then rate of the value of exports will be increased. When rate of imports increases, rate of the value of import reduces. When the rate reduces, value of exports increases. Okay, then we can able to bring the balance between exports and import, and it helps to solve the deficit BOP. Before that, take a meaning of devaluation. Devaluation refers to reducing the value of rupee. Rupee means our country currency name. Each country having their own currency and their own value of that currency. Okay, and Indian currency name is rupees. Okay, the value of rupee in front of or against to in front of foreign currency. On against which we are reducing the value of our currency in front of foreign currency. In front of foreign currency is nothing but devaluation. Here, devaluation is made by the government. Okay, the government taken devaluation step in order to reduce the deficit BOP and to increase the foreign exchange reserves. Got it? And here, the devaluation helped to the country help to the exports what will happen? Will be reduced. Price of exports will be reduced. Then when price reduces, the demand for our exports goods in a foreign country will be increases. Demand will be increases. What will happen? Due to devaluation, the price of exports goods will be reduced. Then the demand will be increased, so that the export rate will also be increased. But at the same time, what happens? Devaluation will, the price of, due to devaluation, the price of imports will be increased. What will happen? Due to devaluation of our country currency, price of import goods will be increased. When price of import goods, for example, we are importing one blankets, okay, woolen blankets from England. Think that the woolen blanket was 2000 rupees earlier. After making a devaluation, when our country currency value reduces in front of foreign currency value, then 2000 rupees blanket will become 3000. Then who will be going to purchase that import goods? They used to reduce the demand for import goods due to increasing the price of imports. In that way, when the price of imports increases, what will happen? The demand for import goods will be reduced and the rate of imports will also be declines. In that way, what happens? Exports rate will be increased and imports rate, due to high price in imports, what happens? The rate of imports will be declines. Exports will be increases, imports will be declines. Then automatically we can bring balance between export rate and import rate, and we can able to reduce the deficit BOP. In this way, the government have taken foreign exchange reforms. Okay, understood? The foreign exchange reforms we have adapted mainly to reduce the deficit BOP crisis. Okay, because it was a crisis. So to reduce that particular problem or to eradicate that particular problem, we have taken foreign exchange reforms. Foreign exchange means the conversion of one country currency into another country currency. Yes, right? Then in this foreign exchange market, we have reduced our rupee value in front of other country currency, and when we reduce the value of rupee, automatically the rate of the price of exports goods will become cheaper. Then export rate is increased, and at the same time the price of imports goods become costlier. It means the price will be increased. Then because of that reason, the import rate was reduced. This is what foreign exchange reforms. By adopting these reforms, the country solved deficit BOP crisis or problem. Why we adopted foreign exchange reforms means in order to solve the deficit BOP crisis by devaluation of rupee. Got it now? Then we move to next one. Reforms in the trade and investment. There are 5 areas we have liberalized. In the first one, deregulation of industrial sector, financial sector reform, tax reform, foreign exchange reform, and one more, reforms in trade and investment. Reforms in trade and investment. Okay, here we adopted reforms in trade and investment, or some changes in the trade and investment policy. Why? Because we all in our country we were having less productivity in agriculture as well as industry. Why? Because means due to lack of investment capacity of our financial institutions as well as government and public. There was lack of investment in our country and lack of capital requirement. That's why we are facing difficulty to improve the production capacity of our country, and at the same time the trade pattern of our country was very rigid, and to make liberal of this trade policies we have adapted reforms in trade and investment. The first main aim of this reforms in trade and investment is nothing but to improve the foreign trade as well as to build the good relationship with the foreign countries. Any country alone cannot be achieve the massive growth. If you want to achieve a massive growth or high rate of economic growth, we need some kind of support from other countries also, because no country have enough resources to achieve the development. So that if we want to achieve a development in all the senses, we should be having a good relationships with other countries and good foreign trade rapport with the other countries. That's why to encourage the foreign trade and to build the good relationship with the world countries, we adapted reforms in trade and investment. Why we adapted reforms in trade and investment means the main aim or intention is to improve the foreign trade and maintain the good relationship with the world countries, Okay. Now, in the first measure we have taken is we have reduced all quantitative restrictions on exports and imports of goods and services, as well as export duties on countries' goods, because export duties means the duties are the taxes which will be levying on exporting of goods from a country. When we have a export duties or export taxes, then our countries industries competitiveness in the world market will be reduces. That's why to boost up the countries Indian industries competitiveness in the world market, the export duties also reduced as well as import duties also reduced in order to maintain the healthy relationship with the other country. And also the main aim of the government to adapt trade and investment reform is to attract the foreign investment to the country, in the form of FDI, in the form of FII, and through MNCs and also on. Because we were lagging behind in the technology as well as modernization. When we allow the foreign direct investment or foreign institutional investment to the country, it helps to maintain the modernization and technological updation, as well as it helps to maintain the high rate of exports and good relationships with the world countries. Because of all these reasons, we adapted reforms in trade and investment. Understood? First one is to improve the efficiency of our Indian industries in the world market, and also to attract the foreign direct investment or foreign institutional investment. Got it? Have you clear notes? Okay, then this is what the areas of liberalization we adapted. There are five main. One is deregulation of industry sector, financial sector, tax reform, foreign exchange reform, and reforms in trade and investment. This is what the liberalization. Next, we move on. One more main feature of new economic policy, that is privatization. We'll start in the next session. Thank you everyone. I hope you all understood. We'll meet in the next session. Okay.